this gets into economics, and this gets into my projection of what I assume the market to be in the near future, and we're already on the precipice of it. And it's only because there hasn't been technology like this that ever came into the world. So like our political system, as we know it, every industry as we know it is about to get a shock. And I personally, I do think a system like UBI or some sort of larger investment into uh, direct monetary payments to citizens. I mean,
no. I mean, eventually, if we have artificial general intelligence that is so good that we start seeing unemployment at 30% or something like that, right? Okay, we got to think about something. But until we get there, let's not preemptively, pull out those extreme measures.
I'm saying we're closer than what we think. And
I mean, I really don't care how close we are. I mean, when we get there, we do it, and if we're not there yet, we don't do it.
But no, I don't like that ideology, because the time to jump out of the pot isn't when it's boiling. And that's where it's.
No, it is, man. It is, because if you start throwing out the pot when you don't need to, we ain't gonna have nothing to eat.
But I don't think you have and that's where it's like I don't think you go extreme with it. It's just like, if, let's say for instance, and I think again, when I say direct monetary payments, I mean it in a sense to where you're speaking to, and I want to like clarify what I mean by that, because it could be, I think it is social programs that we already do, but I would extend them. So it's just like, we already have unemployment. We already have, and that's done by the states.
Yeah, but what's that to do with UBI though? I mean, that's targeted.
That's right. And I'm like I said, maybe I need to clarify, and maybe it's not UVI, maybe it's social programs, to where, and that's why I said monetary payments. And that's why I want to clarify to say, you're not giving it to all people. It would be the bottom. It would be your bottom, and I think that unfortunately a lot of Americans fall in your bottom. And so it's just like, how would you?
I think you lose conservatives though. I think you lose conservatives. Like for instance, conservatives don't like welfare, but they like Social Security. Why? They get Social Security. Not all of them get welfare, right? And that when I think I wrote about this in my book where we were there. You were there with me. We spoke to those conservative college students.
Yep.
And I think it was the 2020 election, and they like Andrew Yang, and it's like.
But they also like Bernie too in 2016.
They like Bernie too, but we're talking about UBI, right? So that's Andrew Yang. And I'm like, how do these conservatives who were supposed to be for small government, how is one of their favorite Democrats, Andrew Yang, the left, the farthest left, money handouts Christmas in the government, if it's Andrew Yang, right? Just money everywhere. And I'm like, how do you guys support Andrew Yang and you're conservative? And they're like, well, at least it's fair because everybody gets it. It's like, okay, big government, when you get paid is all right. But when there's black folks and getting paid, then it's not that good anymore. So I think the attractiveness of UBI for conservatives, and along with all other large, like Social Security and Medicare, like the stuff that they get, they like. The stuff that's targeted, they don't like.
But I'm not concerned with what they like, if I'm being honest, in terms of conservatives. If like with this election, I don't think we needed them. And I say that when I say, like, if most people were to, and like I think most people understand it, or maybe they don't, Democrats are the majority of the American population, and it's a large majority. And it's our inaction. I mean, it's just like, if you look at the population of the United States, it's like it always is around like 330 million or something like that. It could be within 10 or 15 million more now. But if I'm looking at the numbers correctly for Kamala and Donald, I think like half of us are voting, or maybe 60-70%. And it's like, there's a margin there that is choosing not to vote and choosing not to participate.
We've always had lower participation and higher numbers.
Right. And I think that is our issue. Like, I'm not concerned with just like they're not concerned with us. I'm not concerned with what they perceive to be right. I mean, of course I am in terms of a human, like from a human natural standpoint. Of course, we're all Americans and we all should share the same concerns. But I don't care if they disagree on an ideology to assure the bottom, and it's a big program. It's just like I have no concern for that. If we have the majority, I have more concern with us having the majority and not realizing it.
Well, I thought we were talking about the reason I brought that up is I thought we were talking about what losing white, we're losing white voters, and the Bernie people and the Trump people overlap trying to capture some of those voters. That's why I brought it up.
Well, and that's why I wanted to clarify. And like I said, I don't think it's necessarily UVI as much as it is being unapologetically liberal. And like I said, being more liberal on your economic policies and being more centered on your social policies. And I think the economic liberalism is going to lean towards bigger social programs. And I think that's automatically going to be a negative on the right. How far you go is where I think that extreme margin is created. But I think that is the correct direction.
Well, I'll give you moderate socially. The how far left economically depends on the details.
Right, and I think I completely agree, but I think that is the direction. I think both of those directions are the correct. If I had to give
that's the winning direction. I'll give you that. That's the winning. I don't know if it's the correct direction, but that's the winning direction. And I was talking to my friend Chris about this, the finance guy, and he said, he was talking about the same concept. He's like, there is no responsible corporate party anymore. He was like, it used to be that if you wanted free market stuff, you can go to conservatives. He's like, and now with Trump, he's not free market at all. He's talking about all these giant tariffs and stuff.
Absolutely.
So you can't go to them. He said, but then the left is still trying to promise everybody all this money and forgive debt and handouts. And it's like, he's like, so where's just the old school capitalists? It's there's no demand, there's no desire for that. So I agree it's unpopular, but I also am a big, fan of capitalism with regulations and good and high tax rates for wealthy people. But this is all the normal stuff. This isn't anything new. I'm not saying anything crazy. This is how it's always been. But there's less appetite for that now. And people want to experiment with going further on the populist side. And I think I worry that the market demand for it is pressuring politicians into making bad economic decisions. And what do you want to do? Either you're going to win, either you're going to lose, but either you're going to win with bad policies or you're going to lose with good policies. That's the challenge.
Look, I don't think that you lose if you have good policy. And that's where.
Well, I'm saying if they're going too far left economically, that's bad policy to me. It's like when the kids all want pizza parties, and it's like, sure, I can promise you more pizza parties, and I'm gonna win, but maybe that's not optimal. Right, and that's why I said there's a line, and that's why I would want to make it clear to where it's like maybe it's not UVI, even though, again, it's just like there is I think our political environment and our economic environment is unique in the sense to where, again, this is personal when I'm going more into economics. I think AI is going to replace more people than the jobs they create initially. So I think AI. That's the whole point. The point is to replace jobs. If it doesn't replace jobs, it's not even useful. But
I'm saying there is, to me, and I've seen studies. There are going to be new industries that are created once artificial intelligence is at its peak, and people are going to have different jobs. But I'm saying our demographic,
tech people like me will, but
but our demographic,
it's going to take jobs away more.
Exactly. That's my problem. My problem is that I think we're in a unique situation, and now again, especially in America, you have a unique economic situation where the rich is by far, I mean, like in terms of the difference in income, and it's not a problem until the bottom is continually to do worse and worse each year while the market is at record highs. You're going to have this polarization to where I think it's creating the appetite for extremes, and I don't want to confuse the extremes with what I believe to be the winning and right direction. And that's why I said like it has to be preference. But I think being unapologetically liberal is not only to me the winning path. I believe it's the correct path economically, and I think it just needs to be.
It depends on how far you're going.
Right,
If you're going to talk about like preemptive universal basic income, then I think that's a big problem.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it needs to be. I don't have a direct system, but it needs to be. If I'm speaking in broad scope and I'm still giving respect to what the idea could be, it has to be something that is paid for reasonably, and that has to be done by reasonable checks and balances with capitalism in terms of, and within that system.
To me, the reason that we're even talking about this is to me your statement that AI is going to reduce way more jobs than it creates, and I agree. That's the whole point of AI, is to reduce jobs. That's the value of it. But and the consequence of that is you take away all these jobs. Let's say there's no more truckers because AI is driving the trucks automatically, and there's no more service people because it's taking away all the services, and then bots doing all kinds of stuff, right? And so if all of this stuff comes in, and now people cannot work, right? Because capitalism works assuming, and society works assuming that if you put your effort out there, if you try to work, you can work and earn a living. When that no longer becomes true, right? When you can literally not work, there's no jobs, right? Because AI is doing everything, right? So when that happens, yes, we need to make a change. But if unemployment is low, then why do we even need to?
I'm saying this is different. Like if in terms of unemployment being low, I think that is I think that's good. And I'm not saying that I'm anti-capitalist, and that's why I said the direction in which line it is. I'm not drawing the line yet. I'm saying it should be some sort of program, and I wanted to say that's why I wanted to preference it. May not be UBI, it may be a social program, but I think the direction is unapologetically liberal. Whatever it is, it should be a big program. It should be targeted towards assuring the bottom, and it's going to involve some sort of money. I mean, that's what it is.
Why do we need this new program?
Because I think if we don't, I think there is going to be from two positions. And again, it's not only from an economic position where I think artificial intelligence is coming, and just for the history of the market in general, there's always been a human element it's always been humans that the market has gone off of. It's always been empowered by human capital. It's always humans behind these companies that are making the value and creating the wealth. There is a non-human element that is increasingly creating value in the system, and I think that is creating pressure. And number one, just even for tech, like if I'm being honest, I think tech people may even have that may even be the first sector that's unfortunately targeted. Like it's like I think there's going to be a lot, and I don't necessarily think that you do that now, but I'm saying I think there are reasons why I think people are that being economically liberal and kind of being unapologetic about that and being more aggressive with your approach. I think there are reasons why that is. And I think in the era that we're in, it's more reasonable to do that now than ever. Number one, that's just my
here's what I'll say. I want to start with what I agree with you about. I agree that in the future, not now, but in the future, when AI is so powerful and large that unemployment is incredibly high because there's no jobs to do, or at least there's not enough jobs to do for the people. When it's at that point, then yes, we'll need to look capitalism in the eye and start making some decisions. But to me, those decisions that's like amputating your arm. It's like I got poison, I got to cut my arm off. Like that's
I want to be, but I want to be clear though. I'm not anti-capitalist. I want to be clear. I'm not anti-capitalist. I would even consider myself a capitalist.
Well, to me, you should be anti-capitalist if there's no jobs, right? If you can't work, then you got to start changing the system, right? Capitalism.
I mean, but I would want to stay with it as much as much as we can, as long as we could.
My point is that UBI, universal basic income, is akin to me to cutting your arm off. Like you do that if it's absolutely necessary and no sooner. You do that when you need to.
So I think UBI is, if I'm being honest with you, I think it's a winning policy.
It's the pizza party, man. People might vote for it because they get money.
Do I feel like it's the correct policy as of the moment? I'm not sure if I'm being I can't say either way, and because
I'm very confident it's bad policy.
I'm not, especially right now.
It might be winning policy. I'll give you that because people like money, but it's not good policy for the country.
I think it could be, especially if it's paid for. It's done the right way. If you're let's, and this is a hypothetical, but I could get into it. But if you raise corporate taxes, if you're raising taxes on capital gains, if you're establishing some sort of wealth tax, if you're
what do you mean by wealth tax?
Not wealth tax, estate tax. My apologies.
Estate, okay.
If you're raising estate tax and maybe lowering the amount. So let's say, for instance, if the current estate tax is 12 million at 40%, maybe you lower the number and raise the percentage. So now instead of, or lower the number and lower the percentage. So like you make it 5.2.
Look, I'm all for increasing taxes. I'm like, let's increase some taxes.
But that's how you pay for it. I'm saying that's how you pay for it. If you have capital gains taxes and you have estate taxes and you have higher corporate taxes and like,
so here's the thing. I want to be careful about paying for stuff because we're already running deficits, right? So,
and you also
paying for stuff is difficult.
But you also pay down your deficit if you raise taxes as well. It's just like,
but if we raise taxes and then you just spend it on UBI, well, then we still got a deficit problem, right? So
not necessarily. I mean, and that's where it's like if you do it right. Where like I believe 3 days ago I was talking to ChatGPT and I was asking how we could do a program that would pay $500 to every American under 50 that makes under $50,000 annually, and how much that would cost. And
$500 a month or $500 a year?
$500 a month. $500 a month, and for every American that makes under $50,000 a year. And I believe they said it would be about 87 million Americans, and it said that it would cost about $500 billion yearly. And I was like, okay, what is the defense budget? And it was like defense budget averages from around 800 billion. I'm like, they ain't gonna want us messing with that. I'm like, so how could we raise these specific, everything that I said, how could we raise corporate tax? How could we raise capital gains tax? How could we establish estate taxes to pay for a welfare program like that and also pay down the deficit? Like to do these things simultaneously. And they were like, you could do it by raising the corporate gains taxes to or capital gains taxes to something like equal to current rates for like your middle class. So making it from like whatever it is now to like 30-something%. Like I believe like right now it's like 12% or something crazy low. But like,
yeah, man, this talk made me nervous, man.
But it doesn't make me nervous, though. To me, that doesn't make me nervous. Like that makes me realize like that is now a market that is resilient. It's a market that's paying down its debt. It's a market that's assuring the
here's what
bottom.
I'm saying. If we need to raise taxes to pay for something important, then sure. But if we're paying people for no reason, like, come on, I just can't. I can't justify that, man.
I can. If Americans do
People
not
sitting
like,
at home doing nothing, getting $500 a month.
but it's not nothing. And that's where it's just like, I don't believe that people would do nothing with that. I think people would use that towards their rent. I think people would use that towards groceries.
I mean, they're
think
gonna
people would
spend
use
it
that.
for sure. I mean,
But
they're gonna
no,
spend
I'm
it.
saying I don't
But
think it would be, I don't think the addition of $500 a month to people who make under $50,000 annually is going to be a disincentive to their life. I don't, because it's not enough to substantially pay for anything other than like it. So you can't substantially cover rent with that. The only thing that you could do is supplement, and that's where it's like, because it's not enough to reasonably cover all expenses. It's really not even enough to cover one heavy major expense, and it's just like that. I think it makes a difference. I really do, and that
look, I can't argue that $500 a month is nice. It's look, it is. People are going to appreciate that. It's nice, and people might vote for it because they want the money. But I do not think that is very anti-capitalistic to have it's an incentive for
so are
nothing.
tariffs. So are tariffs, and
I'm not for
it's just
tariffs
like,
either.
I know, but it's just like, but I don't
Unless
think.
for like certain industries we need to protect in certain cases,
But
but generally no.
I think you could do it like again, that's an example. And I'm not that is literally an example of a way that of of a program in which you can do something. And then let's say for instance, if you assuming that you assuming in that scenario where you have a program like that and you can pay for it, and now for whatever reason the world is moving in a better direction, you have the best case scenario for the world, nuclear disarmament and all of that, and you can divest some of your defense budget. It's
Yeah,
just like,
we got to be nervous, man.
but you don't though, right? It's just like that. Again, I think the world is moving, especially now with Donald Trump being elected president. Again, I don't. I think there are barriers, but I think the world is moving in the wrong direction entirely.